Wondering what life is really like on Canada's wild and crazy West Coast? This podcast is all about the people, the places, and Vancouver Island time. Together, we'll explore this island paradise, a combination of ocean, city, and country living. We'll meet the fabulous locals such as the Fudge Fairy and the Chicken Lady, who have chosen Victoria and Vancouver Island as their home. And we'll learn what makes this place unique and special to those who live here. And now, your host of Vancouver Island Time, Jane Johnston.
Hi everybody, it's Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group at Remax Camosun and host of Vancouver Island Time. I'm here with Linda Watson of Connected Canine, and today we're going to be talking about a really special area called Shirley. It's just west of Sooke. It's about an hour west of Victoria along the West Coast Road. Lots of wests out there, and we're probably on the westernmost part of Canada, I think. So I understand you're from Toronto. I'm from Toronto. Whereabouts are you from?
I actually grew up in Victoria and moved to Toronto when I was about 20 or 21. Spent way too many years there living in Thornhill and working in the downtown core in the criminal court system for a number of years. And then I opened a kickboxing gym in Maple. So I'm pretty familiar with all of the GTA.
Okay, my sister actually used to ride horses in Maple.
It's beautiful up there if you can handle the snow.
Right, it's right in the snow belt. So you moved to Victoria when?
I moved back home 3 years ago. I grew up in Victoria, and growing up here, we used to take little weekend trips out to French Beach. And as a kid coming through Sooke, I always said, when I retire, Sooke's where I want to live. This is where I want to be.
You don't look old enough to be retired.
That's very kind of you. The gym did well.
Okay, so I actually used to teach in Sooke at Edward Millan. I was a high school teacher there, and I do find it has a different flavor. It's changed a bit since I taught. So I taught there in 2000, I guess, to 2006. So what do you find about this area? First of all, explain exactly where we are. We're in Shirley, which is west of there.
Yeah, we're in Shirley. We're at a cafe called Shirley Delicious. It's kind of an iconic landmark, and if you've ever been out here, you'll know why. Phil is quite the character. He's one of the owners here. Amazing food, great coffee, great vibe, and we're kind of in the middle of a temperate rainforest here. There's not a whole lot else out here. Sooke, for me, was the place I wanted to live, but having been in Toronto for so long, Sooke had grown so much that it was even too busy for me when I moved home. So I spent a year in Sooke, and then now I've moved out to Shirley, just a little bit further away from the hustle and the bustle. And I just love being in nature.
So one of the things that they say about living in Sooke and west of here is that there's one road in and one road out. Do you find that stops people from coming out? Do you find, is there any interruption of services out here? I know that where I live in Machosen, we do have interruption of services because of trees falling over, and we get wind here in the winter.
Yeah, it wasn't so much of an issue for me. It never really bothered me until this winter. We've had some pretty crazy windstorms. So yeah, definitely there were trees down, power lines down, and one road in and out. I mean, you could look at that one of two ways, right? It's like, maybe it keeps people we don't want out as well. It's a beautiful place. Anywhere you live, no matter where it is, it's going to have pluses and minuses, right? And the pluses so greatly outweigh the minuses. That's not a deterrent for me at all.
Yeah, they jokingly call it the Sookahala after the Coquihalla, but actually I don't mind it at all. I find it is a bit curvy, so if you get car sick, it can be a bit much. I found that when I was pregnant and teaching, it was hard.
It's funny you say that because I actually just had a friend come down and visit from Toronto, and she was here during the 3 or 4 days that we had no power at all. So we rented a cabin up in Port Renfrew. We called ahead and they did have power, and she got very car sick on the way because the road was so windy.
So Port Renfrew, how much further is it from Shirley?
Maybe like another 40 minutes, 45 minutes from here, depending on how fast you drive, how well you can navigate the curvy roads. Yeah, and it's just more of this, right? More green, lush, rainforest, beautiful beaches. Between here and Port Renfrew, there's so many amazing beaches and waterfalls and trails and hikes. I mean, it's paradise here.
There's also a Botanical Bay out there.
Love that place. It's changed a lot too. I remember going there as a kid, and all of the little tidal pools when the tide goes out, and the trail there again is a beautiful place if you have dogs and you like hiking. Beautiful trail.
Yeah, you can go between the beach and the bay there. And also Port Renfrew's changed a lot. There's a new development out there.
There's quite a few new developments out there. The place that we stayed when we didn't have power is a relatively new set of cottages out there. They're fairly modern, fairly nice. Definitely not what you would think about when you think of Port Renfrew like 10, 15 years ago. But yeah, it's developing like everywhere else, I suppose.
I think a lot of people have bought them as investment kind of holiday properties.
That's exactly what it was. There were so many that were empty. We had our choice of, we could go from the bare minimum to the absolute most chic. And, having been without power for 3 or 4 days, we chose to take one of the nicer ones and have a little treat.
And what about, so places to eat in Port Renfrew and between here and Sooke, and then let's talk about Sooke after.
Yeah. In Port Renfrew, we honestly stocked up on groceries and we did all our own cooking up there. I know there's some pubs up there that have great reputations. I haven't spent a lot of time eating up in Port Renfrew. If you're cruising back this way, obviously Shirley Delicious. If you want coffee, sandwiches, snacks. During the summer months, Stoked Wood-Fired Pizza, which is down by French Beach. That place is amazing. They put alder in the stove, so you get the flavor of the alder in the pizza. It's thin crust. Everything's local. All the greens are from Living the Dream Farm, which is right across the street. I mean, it doesn't get any fresher than that. Yeah, that place is awesome.
And what about in Sooke?
In Sooke, to eat, well, there's the Harbor House, if you're going all out and fancy. The Harbor
World class?
World class, 5-star, resort. We've stayed there as well. Beautiful property. They also have the Copper Room, which is more of a lounge if you want to sit by the fire and just have a glass of wine and a light snack. Route 14, more of a pub-style food. And 17 Mile Pub, which everybody knows, right? They've got live music there. They've got music bingo. That's like the fun place to go on the weekend if you want to eat out.
And they also have, what's that called? Zip lining.
Yes, adrenaline zip lining. Mm-hmm. That's actually one of the trails that I hike the dogs up when they're not in season. Like right now, they're not running tours. So we can actually walk that trail all the way up to the top of the mountain.
What's also cool is, like, considering how close we are to Victoria, there are lots of formal, like, professional camps. So there's the Camp Thunderbird. And then just around the corner from here, I actually brought my daughter up here for guides camping.
There's Camp Bernard as well. Oh, right. Yeah, I did a little session there. It was like 6 45-minute sessions through the course of one day where we talked about animals, both wild and domesticated, and how energy affects them differently and how like your body language affects them and how to be aware of bears and cougars when you're out in the wild and stuff. Camp Bernard's another beautiful place. Right.
So I think that's for scouts.
Yes. Yeah, that's a scout camp.
Yeah, and that's at the top of Otter Point. So what's cool, as I already said, it's cool. But what's neat about Sooke is you're so close to the nature, right?
Yes.
And then, so there's a reason why there's a bear in the picture behind us and eagles.
And the bear's eating a salmon because they spawn up the rivers here every year. Yeah, there's a lot of wildlife here, and that's another huge draw for me. Having grown up here, when I lived in Toronto, I would go up to Georgian Bay and just try to find that little piece of something that reminded me of home, and that was as close as I ever got. But there's no place in the world like this.
I used to canoe up in Georgian Bay. I know exactly.
It's beautiful up there. It is, but it's not here.
So, when you moved here, did you move here with your partner?
No, I was single when I moved here. I moved here with 2 dogs with the plan to adopt a 3rd dog. I had been watching her on a rescue site for a very long time, and she had a medical condition that seemed to be a deal breaker for everybody that was a potential home for her. So as soon as and she's a pit bull, and I couldn't have her in Ontario because they have breed-specific legislation. You can't have pit bulls there. So as soon as I moved home and she was still available, I snapped her up. So for the first year, it was just me and the 3 dogs.
And so I know the population of women in Greater Victoria is much higher than men, but easy to meet men out here?
I think so.
I've never asked anybody that before.
I mean, if you're outgoing and you like the outdoors, most of the men out here seem to be very outdoorsy, right? You've got your hunters, your fishermen, your guys that do the logging and the firewood and all of that stuff. So I think if you like to be outdoors and you're living in this particular area, surely, then it's pretty easy to meet men out here.
Okay, best beach in Sooke area.
Can I pick two?
Sure.
Okay. I love Mystic Beach, but if you're not in maybe the best shape, or say you've got an injury or whatever, it's a fairly decent hike down and back up. So Sandcut would be my second pick. Also not an easy hike, but it's much shorter. And both beaches have waterfalls.
How long is the hike?
To Sandcut Beach, maybe 15 minutes. Not bad at all. To Mystic Beach, probably about an hour if you're taking your time and really taking it all in.
So out here, they have the West Coast Trail, and they also have the Juan de Fuca Trail. Have you hiked either one of those?
Sections of them, not the whole thing. It was always a dream to do the West Coast Trail. It hasn't materialized yet. It's still there. It's still in the to-do list for sure.
So one of the things about that trail is, depending on the time of year, you get a lot of rain. Right? And so we've had students when I was at Pearson College, we had students who were hiking it who got rained out. Do you find it's rainier here than in Victoria?
It can be, for sure. Yeah, because we are in a temperate rainforest, right? And if you want to have this beautiful rainforest, you have to expect the rain. The other thing that I know about that trail is you have to be really mindful of the tides. Like, there's sections of the trail where you can be halfway through, and if the tide comes in, you can get stuck. So it's really important to do your homework. I mean, people go on exotic vacations to Mexico and they stayed in all-inclusive, and it's not like that here. If you're coming here, plan, be very well prepared, because this is a temperate rainforest, the weather can change on a dime. You can be out hiking in the sun, and then 2 minutes later it's pouring absolute torrential downpour rain. So it is important to be prepared when you come out here.
Yeah, we are on the West Coast, definitely. And even though actually Victoria is more protected by the rain shadow from the Olympic Mountains, which surround this area, this area is more exposed. Even for tsunamis, you're more likely to have a tsunami on this side of the island than the other side.
This is true. Yeah. When I first moved home, I think I'd been home for 2 or 3 months, and I had a couple of friends come out to visit from Toronto, and I was living down by Billings Spit. And there's signs all the way down there, tsunami warning, tsunami hazard zone. And my one friend from Toronto was just, freaking out. He's like, where did you bring me? Am I going to die while I'm here? But, I mean, it's possible that we'll have a tsunami. They say we're going to have a huge earthquake one day. I don't wake up every day with that in my mind, though. I wake up every day being grateful for this beautiful place that I live in.
Yeah, well, when they had the tsunami in Japan, we were living in the bay at Petter Bay at Pearson College, and the water was coming in and out, and it would go in and out, I think my husband said 3 times an hour. Whoa. So, and it was going up and down probably 5 or 6 feet, but it wasn't unmanageable. It was just fast.
Yeah, I had a client who was saying, we just had this super blood wolf moon. And she was saying that her and her husband went down to the beach at, I think, 9 o'clock or 9:30. And she was saying it looked like there was no water in the bay. So, I mean, even the moon affects the tides so much, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one thing I found. It like here, you're definitely closer. I row in downtown Victoria, and the tides going in and out, especially last week, actually, they were really strong in and out. It's not so bad this week, though.
No, the moon is dissipating.
Do your dogs get affected by that?
My husky certainly does. Yep, she does. She was a stray for, they think, about a year in northern Quebec. And when she was picked up as a stray, and she was taken to a high kill shelter. And she was youth listed because she was quite unmanageable. And I've worked so hard with her, and she's amazing. Her recall's on point. She's just an amazing dog. But around the full moon, she gets a little bit, like she wants to go off and explore, and she doesn't necessarily come back the first time I call her. So I definitely have recognized that, and I keep her a lot closer to me. Oh, yes, a lot more mindful. Keep her a lot closer to me around the full moon.
Well, it makes sense because there is more light too, right?
That's true, yeah. And she was a dog that had to hunt to survive, so yeah.
Okay, so if you want to live on the wild and crazy West Coast, you want to check out Shirley. And if you want to go a little further, you can go up to Port Renfrew. Oh, and we forgot to mention Point No Point, which is a very popular place to stay between here and Sooke. If you want like a cottage on the ocean with a hot tub, it's fabulous, right?
And they've got a great restaurant, another world-class restaurant, and another great place to stay that has hot tubs and a wood-heated infrared sauna is Credolona Lodge, Credolona Oceanfront Lodge. They do weddings and stuff there too. It is spectacular there.
Okay, we'll be back shortly, and we're going to be talking about your business and what it's like to work with dogs on a full-time basis. Take care, and see you in a minute.
Vancouver Island Time is brought to you by the Briar Hill Group at RE/MAX Camosun, Victoria, where we bring local expertise and global presence to your property.
Hi, it's Jane Johnston, and we're back. We're talking about the area of Shirley and also about your business. So tell us, first of all, your name and your business and how long you've been doing it.
Sure. My name's Linda Watson. I own and operate Connected Canine, which is a dog walking, dog training, rescue, rehab, and rehome dog service here in Sooke. I've been doing this for almost 3 years. I've worked with rescues all over the world. I've been to Mexico. We've helped dogs that have come from meat farms and in Asia, and most recently I've started working with a lot of local dogs who are on reservations and in situations where they're just not being cared for properly.
So what are you doing? Are you training people to take care of them? Because I know you train the dog, but really you train the person too, right?
It's never the dog.
It's never the dog.
Never the dog. Dogs are dogs. They're easy. Dogs are easy. They just want their needs met. That's it. People over-emotionalize their dogs. They over-humanize their dogs.
Anthropomorphize?
Yes. Yeah, no, dogs are easy. It's always amazing to me to see the reaction of the dog's owners the minute I step into the house or wherever I meet them and I take a hold of the leash and the dog's a different dog. And they're like, why? My energy's different. I'm treating the dog like a dog. I'm assessing the dog's body language and seeing what the dog needs, right? And that's where people fail. And it's not that they fail because they want to fail. They just don't know.
Well, sometimes they're loving on the dog and they don't realize that by loving the dogs too much, they're spoiling it.
And they're creating anxiety and stress and all kinds of things because that's not normal behavior for a dog, right? Exercise is number one for any happy dog. Any happy, balanced dog, exercise is key. And then the discipline, like they have to have rules and boundaries. And it's just like kids, people who sit with their dog on their lap all day and pet the dog and pet the dog and pet the dog and then wonder why the dog wants to bite everybody that comes through the door. I mean, what would your child do if it didn't have any rules or boundaries?
Well, it's jealous too.
Well, because the owners are allowing that, right? They're creating that. This is my human. This is my space. You can't come into this space.
We have a rescue dog as well. We found she wanted to leave at the beginning. I guess she had a lot more range before she came to us.
It could be that, and it could also be just not knowing this is my home now, right? With every rescue dog, when we build our sanctuary, which is our end goal, with every dog that we send out to foster to adopt, we're going to send out a GPS tracking collar with them because so many dogs, owners don't make the mistake out of anything other than love, right? They just think, well, the dog's bonded to me now. The dog loves me. It's not going anywhere. But they don't give the dog enough time really to bond, and really feel like, okay, this is my person. I'm going to stay with this person. And every day, roam and fled. They have pictures of dogs that have run off. So when we start adopting out dogs through our sanctuary, we're going to make sure that everybody goes home with a borrowed GPS tracking collar just in case the dog slips a lead or takes off.
So what is your vision exactly?
So I have a lot of respect for everyone in rescue. There's a lot of big-hearted people in rescue. There's not a lot of really clear vision, sadly. So a lot of the rescues here, and I've been there, compassion fatigue is a real thing. When you see pictures of 15, 20 dogs that are youth listed, you want to save them all. So they rely on foster homes that maybe aren't really qualified.
Youth listed mean euthanized.
Euthanized, yeah. In America, it happens a lot. The high kill shelters, the dogs have sometimes 24 hours to be claimed and then they're just put down. Because it's a hard reality, right? So a lot of the dogs are brought here from the States, Mexico, up north, wherever, and they're put into foster homes with other dogs, but they're never properly assessed to see if they actually are okay with other dogs. And what what changed things for me was my third dog that I adopted. The rescue that I adopted her from had said, good with cats, good with dogs, good with this, good. Like, she was just the perfect dog, and she wasn't good with any of those things when I first got here. And I feared that had she gone to another home, she likely would have been put down because she just had so much aggression. Again, worked really hard with her, and she's a beautiful dog now, very balanced, beautiful dog now. But I want to make sure that when dogs are getting adopted out into our community, and that's what people have to realize, it's a community safety issue as well, that they're ready. A, they're ready to be adopted out, and B, that they're going to the right home. So we're finding the right fit for these dogs.
So your ideal client is somebody maybe who even has adopted a dog and is not able to control it.
That tends to be the people that call me for training, definitely. Or even, I have a lady that I'm working with right now who bought a dog from a breeder, and the dog is 10 months old now and, weighs almost as much as she does and just is out of control. Like, she just can't control the dog. So we're working on that. I also have dog walking clients where I have really great balanced dogs that are very social and get along with other dogs. And I take them on adventure hikes up Mount Quimper or the Sooke potholes, different places. So there's many sort of facets to my business. I love the dog walking, love the dog training. End goal, ultimate vision, is to build a sanctuary where we can have rescue dogs come in. I'd love to have a vet on site and have them housed where I can assess them, rehabilitate them, and then facilitate the adoption process.
Okay, so people are going to ask me where you got your training to do this.
The funny thing is, I was afraid of dogs when I was younger. I had seen my sister get attacked by a German Shepherd, so there were many, many years where I was like, ugh, dogs, I don't know. And then I adopted my first dog, and he changed everything. He was pretty easy as a rescue dog, so I think I was a little bit naive. And then I got my second dog, and she was not easy at all. And I went to a trainer, and I just, I was at my wit's end. I said, I'm not going to give up on her. And he actually suggested that I go and I train with Cesar Millan, because that was the training that he had taken. And I used to look at him and just go like, how do you make the dogs do that? So he suggested that I go and train with Cesar. And Cesar offers a course called Fundamentals Level 1 and Fundamentals Level 2. So I looked at it. I said, sure, I'm going to do it. I booked it. I did Fundamentals 1 in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale. And then about 7 months later, I did Fundamentals 2 at the Dog Psychology Center in Santa Clarita in California.
Do they give you dogs to work with?
The first one is sort of more open for owners to bring their own dogs. But because I had just moved back to the West Coast, I didn't want to put one of my dogs through that travel all the way to Florida. So if you don't have your own dog with you, they do give you dogs to work with. But at Fundamentals 2, you're not allowed to bring your own dog. They are all shelter dogs, and you don't know anything about them. You don't know their name. You don't know their history. Cesar will just sort of say, that dog, this is what I want you to do with that dog. And then you just have to assess and read the energy and, do it in front of Cesar and 30 other people. It's no pressure at all.
Is that his terminology, the energy?
Energy is everything. Yeah. Dogs read energy, and dogs know people through your energy. So, and again, I bring it back to like kids, right? If you see a kid who's a bully on the playground, what do you think his home life is like, right? If you see a dog who's kind of a bully in the dog park, he's probably not got the calmest environment at home.
So our dog is a really nice dog. She's really gentle, and she does jump up a little bit, so we're working on that. But the other day she's having a bad dream, so she's in the living room and she's like for about 5 minutes, and I said to my husband, I think she's having a nightmare. So we went over, we're like, it's okay. And she just kind of woke up, and then she came in for the biggest hug, and she was leaning all over me. So they really do have feelings, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. They are sentient beings with feeling. My dogs crack me up every day. And there's, everyone who has a dog and loves a dog will have little stories like this, right? Little trigger words or little motions that you do. My first rescue, I had adopted him out here and brought him back to Toronto with me. And that was when I owned my kickboxing gym. So he was like the mascot of the kickboxing gym. Hunter actually knows how to kickbox. And he knows the term sweep the leg, Like, it's crazy. They're so smart. So smart. And all they ever want to do is please us. Dogs are happy hearing good job, good boy, good girl, right? They really just want to please us. It's us as humans that have to be more clear in our direction with the dogs.
So really, I'm thinking, so there's a training of the dog to socialize it with humans and other dogs, and then there's also the training of the humans. Is that part of your vision at your retreat too?
Absolutely. That's why once I've assessed the dogs, rehabilitated the dogs, and then we do sort of like the process of having people come in and work with the dogs, we know for sure we're giving the dogs to the right home, right? And some people will need a little more work than others. Some people will need a little more direction than others. And for people who've always been the loving, this is my baby to their dogs, it might be harder for them to enforce some of the rules and boundaries, but they'll find out they have a much calmer, happier dog if they do everything and nurture all of the dog's needs, not just the loving on the dog all the time is satisfying our needs as humans. It's a selfish love. I love you, but I don't have time to walk you. You know, I love you, but I'm not going to discipline you when you pee in the house.
Yeah, I find we're very good at setting the boundaries so our dog behaves herself.
I love to meet your dog.
Her name's Ginger. Okay, so what when do you think this is going to happen?
So we've done a couple fundraisers. I host an annual event called Bark in the Park, and we have live music and food trucks, and the Sooke Brewing Company comes out and pours beer for people. We have a little beer garden, silent auction prizes. We've been working on it for, I'm going to say, probably 2.5 to 3 years now. And the hardest part about rescue is the constantly asking for donations. So as part of my vision, when we get this sanctuary built, we're going to have the rescue side, and then I'm going to have the other side, which is going to be a dog daycare and boarding and all of those things, so that for-profit side can fund the nonprofit side. It's the fundraising that's the hardest part. And I think, honestly, we set our goal at 100,000 because we need to buy land and we need to build a fairly big place to house everything that I want to do. I have 2 inspirations for what I'm doing. Bella, my husky, came from a rescue in King City, north of Toronto, called Dogtails Rescue and Sanctuary. It is a 51-acre dog and horse sanctuary. And if you look at it online, it's unlike any other shelter you've ever seen. It is phenomenal. Okay, 51 acres is a lot. I'd be happy with 10. And the other side is a place called the Country Inn Pet Resort. And that is in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And that is where I did my first training with Cesar. And they've got pools for rehab for dogs. They've got on-site veterinary hospital. So everything that they have there is for profit. And like I said, if I could mold the two together somehow, the for-profit side could fund the nonprofit side, and then that's the ultimate dream.
You need a patron. You need someone to donate the land, and then you need the $100,000 to build the rest of the stuff.
I have met a wonderful woman in Sooke, actually, who bid on 2 of our silent auction prizes last year at Bark in the Park, and she's been a copywriter for over 40 years. So she's currently helping me work on some grant applications. And I know that there are grants out there. I know that there's money out there for this type of thing. It's just a matter of finding someone who knows how to do the paperwork to help us get there.
Where is Bark in the Park?
The first year we had it at Ed McGregor Park in Sooke. And then the second year we had it just behind Speed Source Gym on Otter Point Road, the old golf course there. It's private property there, so we didn't have to buy the city permit and all that. Yeah, so we had it there. And this year we're not sure where we're going to have it yet. I'd kind of like to have it somewhere out here, like maybe even the Shirley Community Hall over here.
What about having one in the city too? There's a Victoria Dog Owners Facebook site. They'd probably be interested in it.
I'm actually on that page, and that's a really great idea. It's a lot of organization, and again, with the fundraising, I'm super aware of how much money I spend putting on these events, right? Because it's about raising money for the dogs, but that's definitely something to look into, is finding a nice park in Victoria that maybe won't be too expensive to host an event.
Yeah, and maybe also you could ask for volunteers.
We had volunteers last year. It was amazing. Volunteers were taking tickets at the gate. supervising the silent auction tables, going around making sure people were going. TELUS was there and had a booth set up, so they had games and Plinko and all kinds of stuff. So volunteers are a huge part of what we do when we do our fundraisers.
Okay, so in the meantime, if you have people looking, how do they reach you?
You can go to our website, connectedcanine.ca. You can find us on Facebook, Connected Canine, and we're on Instagram as well at Connected Canine.
If you want more information about Shirley, contact me. I'm Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group at RE/MAX Camosun. And if you're interested in being a guest or watching more of our episodes, you can go to our website at vancouverislandtime.com. We're also on podcast networks. Any one that you want, we are on it. Or you can check us out on Facebook at Vancouver Island Time. All right, everybody, have a great day and take care.
Welcome to the neighborhood. We hope you have had some insight into West Coast living. If you know of someone or someplace that should be highlighted in our podcast, we'd love to hear from you. Please go to vancouverislandtime.com and click on our Connect button. See you next week on Vancouver Island Time with Jane Johnston.